presentation is Engineer Rusty Bost. I'm going to let you go over those one by one instead of take a while. I read them. You just go ahead. The first one, of course, is deleting a flashing signal at Gaston Day School Road.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. The item before you tonight is simply in the process of managing the city's traffic system. We discovered a handful of maybe some outdated or duplicate ordinances that need to be updated and brought current. The first one involves, actually, it's kind of a grouping, and I'll put this on the Elmo so folks at home can kind of see. This is an overhead view of the intersection of Kendrick Drive and Gaston Day School Road. The first one involves flashers on Gaston Day School Road. It also involves stop signs at this intersection. Traffic circles simply don't operate with stop signs, they operate with yield signs. So the first part of these is removing the requirement for stop signs at this intersection and instead changing the ordinance to read the yield signs in the flasher. The second part of this also, I'll switch this out, is our other traffic circle. We have two in Gastonia. This one is at the intersection of 2nd Avenue and Belvedere Street, and this one also still has stop signs ordinanced. Simply when the traffic circles were put in, the stop sign ordinance wasn't changed, so we just need to go back and correct that. The last group, if you will, is a duplicate of traffic ordinances, and I can show you this real quick too. This one is on Oakland Street, and it involves parking restrictions on the west side. This is the side adjacent to the First United Methodist Church. I believe that's Roosevelt Tire, all the way down to Piedmont Charter High School on the west side. This is a duplicate. There's already an ordinance on the book that prohibits parking from Main Avenue down to 4th Street on that side of the street. Just at some point in the past, that parking was transferred from no parking to parking to 2 hours, or from parking for only 2 hours to parking to not at all. And there was already an ordinance on the book. So this is simply removing a duplicate. Parking will still be prohibited on that side of the street. This is just pulling unnecessary language out of the ordinance book. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions anyone has.
Any questions of Rusty?
Rusty, I got one question.
Yes, sir.
I know it's not listed on here, on your item here, but where South Street ends right by Main Avenue,
Yes, sir.
we have a traffic light there. How come?
That traffic signal is legacy from a long time ago. I think that signal was there even before the current railroad ditch was in place, when South Street went straight across north. Downtown used to, have a lot of pedestrian, a lot of downtown traffic. We're talking about before the malls were developed. So the signals were put in place there. Right now, I think the main purpose of that signal, from an engineering perspective, is sight distance. There's a lot of limited sight distance with cars parking on the street, and it just brings safety into a question of making right turns on reds or knowing whether or not your left turn is clear or not.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Ash, do we vote on this?
Yes, sir. One motion for all of them.
Can we do that?
Yes, sir.
That was what I was reading.
So move.
Is there a
Second.
Okay. Any discussion, any questions? All in favor? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
The item 2, Captain Smith, I believe, resolution declaring radios surplus property and transferring the same pursuant to the general statute 160A-274. Filling in for Chief, who's been called away. Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Mayor, Council. The police department switched over to 800 megahertz radios, and our system is now up and operational. So we surplused our 450, and we have some of the extra ones in inventory. We have some of them put back for emergencies, but the Randlow Police Department is in need of some radios. After doing an inventory and then coming up with a fair market value, working with a radio shop, Chief was able to determine that these radios could be surplused and sold to Randlow Police Department so that they could use them and put them back to in service. And it's You can see the numbers here.
Okay. Questions? Yep.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Thank you.